How to give 2 weeks notice without really giving 2 weeks notice. My job completely screwed me over. So I'm returning the favor. I work remotely for the federal government 4 days a week, with 1 day in the office. Months ago there were talks to call us back into the office 3 days a week. But I've already moved 200 miles away. I immediately voiced my concerns to management, who told me verbatim, "Don't worry about it." I took this to mean, I'll be granted an exception and can remain working remote 4 days a week. Fast forward several months, and I see an email about how management looks forward to seeing everyone back in the office 3 days per week 2 weeks from now. What? I email management immediately and they schedule a sit-down meeting with me. As it turns out, when they said, "Don't worry about it," what they actually meant was, "You shouldn't worry about things in general." They followed up with a lovely, "But we can understand how you could have misinterpreted that." I spruced up my resume and began applying to jobs that same afternoon, and had a phone interview lined up before I got home. Fast forward to today, 1 week after they dropped that bombshell on me, and I have a job offer and put in my 2 weeks notice. What they don't know is, I'll actually only be working one of those 14 days. The rest is being burned through a combination of annual leave that's already been approved, holiday leave and sick leave. So, basically, I'm giving 2 weeks without giving 2 weeks notice. Feels good, man. Upside down face. It would be nice if they ask you what you're doing as you're packing up all your stuff in the office at the end of the first day of your 2 weeks notice. Just so you could say, "Oh, I'm using up my annual leave, so I'm only working for 1 day during my 2 weeks notice." But I can understand how you could have misinterpreted that. I missed the part where you maliciously complied. Totally reasonable. OP is due annual, holiday and sick leave. They are now legally using this leave. Doesn't matter that it's at the end of their employment. When I left the UK civil service I had to give 4 weeks notice. However, I had 19 days leave outstanding because they'd banned us from taking holiday for a few months, right when I'd been intending on taking it. So I handed in my notice on Friday and came back on Friday 4 weeks later for an exit interview. I'd been working my new job for 3 weeks by then. As someone who has been in the workforce for 35 plus years, it is fascinating to see how employers don't understand that they are not in complete control of the employment market anymore. These employers think they can still shout, jump, and employees will beg, "How high?" Then they fret over, "OMG, now we gotta fill the position again." Just amazing. So you were traveling 200 miles once a week to work 1 day in the office? I dunno. I wouldn't want to give up a federal government job. I've been applying for months with vet preference and SCHA and the field is so broad I haven't gotten in for interviews. The pay and leave structure of the FedGov is better than most private sector jobs with very few exceptions. I'd move back or get a hotel room for a night or two and knock out all the per pay period office days at once. Leaving federal service just wouldn't be an option. Were you on a remote agreement or telework? You were on telework. You were never supposed to be allowed to move that far from your workplace. I'm going to assume you never told anyone at work where you moved, or else they probably would have had an issue with this sooner. I used to work for a guy who had 2 years of various leaves and holiday time built up that he used in a nearly 2-year chunk, coming in on his absolute final day to sign out for his retirement. Hell of a party that afternoon. Cool. Op, teach me your ways. You were able to get a job interview in 1 day? I've been told a good handful of times by employers that my resume sucks, And I've applied in past to about 50 jobs I haven't gotten a response for. Could you give me some pointers? Or blank out all the important info with name and job 1 and stuff to help me? If they're upset, just tell them not to worry so much, in general. Sick leave. You work in a different country. If you try sick leave in Germany after sending in your resignation, the employer can question your sick leave and force you into the office, or not pay you for this time. While worker laws are much stronger here, they also don't like using the medical system for getting time off. Petty revenge. NTA, but our anti-work might have been a good place for this story. At my job, PTO accrues gradually over time, and if you don't use it you can sit on around 500 hours of time off. We work 12.2-hour shifts, so that's just shy of 41 shifts. We work 7 shifts every 2 weeks. So that's almost 12 weeks of possible vacation saved up all at once. Good for you. Employers and managers say, "Don't worry about it," and then bend you over a table. At a place I used to work, I had checked the box on my application noting I had a disability. They didn't ask what it was, so I figured everything was cool. Fast forward 6 months where I called off due to my disability. Clinical depression. The AST store MGR told my immediate MGR that if I missed one more day, I'd be fired. My MGR said, "Don't worry about it." That was a red flag for me. So I told him that I had a disability and had checked the box when I applied. Then I told him, if the ASM wants to try and fire me, I will contact the ADA and the local press and make a public case of it. I also told him I would contact my doctor and provide the paperwork about my disability. Then I told him to forward what I told him to the ASM. Needless to say, no more mention of my missing days due to mental illness was ever brought up again. A nice cathartic story, but not malicious compliance. My mom was a school nurse at a boarding school with a 2-week break in March. She gave her 4-week notice 2 weeks before the break. That's just working the system, yo. Doesn't seem like MC to me, especially with planned leave, and it is your own fault for moving so far away. They didn't screw you over. You did that to yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.